My sister-in-law stole my dog because I didn't deserve him after her pet died, claiming she could give him a better life. But she ended up arrested and now no one trusts her. My husband Lucas and I have been married for 5 years. We met in a rather modern way. A group of mutual friends organized a kind of blind date because, according to them, we were perfect for each other. I'm not going to lie. At first I was full of doubts. I'm not a fan of blind dates and the idea of having dinner with someone unknown was a bit terrifying. But from the moment Lucas and I started talking, there was something that just clicked. It was as if I had known him my whole life. One of the first things we discovered we had in common was our love for animals, especially for dogs. Lucas grew up in a small town in Tennessee surrounded by woods and fields and always had dogs as companions. For my part, I grew up in a bigger city, but I always wanted a dog while growing up. It wasn't until I moved out on my own that I finally adopted my first puppy. When we got married, one of the first important decisions we made as a couple was to adopt a dog together. After searching local shelters for weeks, we found Charlie, a beautiful Labrador retriever who was full of energy and had such a sweet look that it was impossible not to fall in love. From the day we brought him home, Charlie became the center of our lives. The rest of our family also adored Charlie, with one notable exception, my sister-in-law, Chloe. Chloe is Lucas' older sister and, to be completely honest, our relationship has never been easy. From the day we met, I felt that Chloe looked at me with suspicion. She is one of those people who need to be the center of attention at all times. And I think my relationship with Lucas made her feel displaced in some way. Chloe also had a dog, a small Pomeranian named Bella, whom she treated as if she were her own baby. Now, I have nothing against treating pets well, but Chloe took things to another level. She bought designer clothes for Bella, prepared gourmet food for her, and even had an Instagram account dedicated exclusively to her dog with thousands of followers. Of course, Chloe always found a way to make sarcastic comments about Charlie. She would say things like, "Oh, what a basic dog. A Labrador. How unoriginal." Although those comments bothered me, I always tried to ignore them for the sake of the family relationship. But things got much more complicated a few months ago when Bella unfortunately passed away. Chloe was devastated. Bella had been her companion for almost 8 years and her loss left her completely heartbroken. My mother-in-law tried to comfort her, but Chloe didn't want to listen to anyone. She isolated herself from everyone for weeks. Lucas and I, although we didn't have the best relationship with her, tried to support her. We sent her messages, invited her to dinner, and offered her our company. But Chloe rejected all our attempts. Eventually, she began to show herself a little more. Although it seemed that something in her had changed, she began to visit our house more often, always with the excuse that she wanted to see her beloved Charlie. But there was something in her tone, in the way she said it, that didn't seem quite normal to me. "Charlie must feel very lonely, right?" she asked me one day while we were in the kitchen. "Not really," I replied, surprised. "Lucas and I spend a lot of time with him. He's a happy dog." "Sure. But a dog like Charlie needs something more. More space. More attention. Don't you think he would be better off in a place like mine?" That question left me speechless for a moment. Chloe lived in a small apartment in the city center, much smaller than our house with a large backyard. It was clear that what she was saying didn't make sense. "Charlie is perfectly fine here," I replied firmly. "We make sure he has everything he needs." Chloe sighed, as if she were dealing with a capricious child. "Well, I'm just saying that if you ever need help, I'd be more than happy to take care of him. I think I have a special connection with Charlie. He knows it." I laughed uncomfortably, trying to divert the conversation. But something in her words left me uneasy. 2 weeks later, Chloe showed up unannounced while Lucas was at work. I was working from home and Charlie was playing in the backyard. Chloe entered with her usual attitude, talking non-stop about how much she missed having a dog. Then, suddenly, she offered to take Charlie for a walk. "Thanks. But it's not necessary," I said with a strained smile. "I plan to take him out this afternoon." Chloe was silent for a moment, as if she was evaluating what to say. Then she smiled and shrugged. "Okay. Whatever you want. But if you ever change your mind, you know I'm here." That was the last time I saw her before what happened the following week. One night, Lucas and I had gone out to dinner with some friends. Charlie stayed at home, as we always did when we went out. We left him in the backyard with access to the kitchen through the sliding door. Everything seemed normal when we left. However, when we returned home a few hours later, something was very wrong. The back door was ajar and Charlie was nowhere to be found. When we returned that night and saw the back door open, a chill went down my spine. Charlie never ran away. He always stayed close to the house, even if the garden door was left open by accident. Lucas and I ran through the house calling him, but there was no trace of him. I felt like anxiety was taking over me. "This is not normal," I said, trying not to panic. "Charlie would never leave like this." Lucas tried to calm me down while checking the yard, but I knew something was wrong. I went out into the neighborhood calling him, checking every corner, hoping he was nearby. Lucas stayed behind checking the house one last time and making sure he hadn't hidden in some strange place. After an hour with no sign of Charlie, we began to consider the unthinkable. Someone might have taken him. I was about to call the police when Lucas' phone rang. It was his mother. "Is everything okay?" she asked with a worried tone. "Chloe just arrived home with Charlie." For a second, I felt a relief mixed with disbelief. "What do you mean? Chloe is with Charlie?" Lucas tried to stay calm as he asked. "What do you mean? She has Charlie? What happened?" His mother explained that Chloe had appeared at her house a few minutes ago with Charlie, saying that she had found him abandoned in our backyard. According to her, he was crying and looked very sad. So she decided to take him with her to take care of him. That explanation made me boil with rage. Chloe had no right to enter our property, much less take our dog without our permission. Lucas tried to calm me down, but he was just as furious as I was. Without thinking twice, we got in the car and headed straight to Chloe's house. When we arrived, Chloe opened the door with an expression of feigned innocence. Charlie was behind her, wagging his tail happily, oblivious to the chaos that was happening. "What were you thinking?" Lucas exclaimed, his voice trembling with fury. "You took Charlie without permission. What's wrong with you?" Chloe crossed her arms and sighed, as if we were overreacting. "Please. It's not a big deal," she said with an irritating calm. "Charlie was alone and clearly not being taken care of as he should. I just did what any responsible person would do." My patience, which was already hanging by a thread, broke at that moment. "Excuse me. We don't take care of him. He's our dog. You have no right to decide what's best for him." She raised her hands in a defensive gesture, but her tone remained condescending. "Look. You guys are too busy to give him the attention he needs." After losing Bella, I understood what it means to take good care of a dog. "I'm doing this for his own good." Lucas was as stunned as I was. "Are you hearing what you're saying?" he asked incredulously. "You entered our property and kidnapped our dog. This is not normal." Chloe didn't budge. "Charlie is like family. I don't see why you're making such a drama. Besides, he wants to be with me. I know it." We decided not to prolong the confrontation right there, because frankly, we didn't know how to handle the situation. We took Charlie back home and tried to calm down, but the rage didn't disappear. That night, we installed the security cameras that we had been considering for months. I didn't want to experience something like that again. And if Chloe tried something else, this time we would have proof. I thought that maybe the incident had been an irrational impulse on her part, something that would not happen again. But Chloe had other ideas. Over the next few weeks, she began to send messages to Lucas and other family members saying things like, "Charlie doesn't seem happy there. Are you sure you're taking good care of him? Or if you ever need help with him, I'm always available." The messages were irritating, but we tried to ignore them in order not to escalate the situation. However, things got out of control when Chloe showed up at our house again. It was a Saturday afternoon, and Lucas was working in the garage while I was preparing lunch. Charlie was in the backyard enjoying the sun. Suddenly, I heard him barking more than normal. When I looked out the window, I saw Chloe standing by the fence with a bag of what appeared to be raw meat in her hand. I ran out of the house. "What are you doing here, Chloe?" I asked, trying to stay calm. "I just came to visit Charlie," she said with an innocent smile. "He misses me. It's obvious. This has to stop," I replied, my voice trembling with rage. "You can't come here unannounced and act like Charlie is yours. It's not okay." What's wrong with it? I'm his aunt. I just want to see him happy. You're not his aunt. Chloe. He's our dog. And you have no right to come here whenever you want. She raised her eyebrows as if I was being unreasonable. Well, I just wanted to make sure he was okay. Sometimes I feel like you don't understand what he needs. At that moment, I understood that Chloe was not going to stop. This obsession with Charlie was going too far, and something had to be done before things got worse. After that last incident with Chloe, Lucas and I decided to cut off all communication with her for a while. We made it clear that she was not welcome in our house and that if she tried something again, we would take legal action. Honestly, we thought that would be enough to stop her. But Chloe had other plans. A week later, while Lucas and I were going out to dinner, we received a notification on our phone. The security cameras had detected movement in the backyard. When we opened the app, we saw something that chilled us to the bone. Chloe was on our property again. In the images, Chloe was seen trying to open the sliding door that led to the backyard. Charlie, who was inside the house, was barking at the door. Chloe had a leash in her hand and seemed to be calling him to come out. She can't be doing this again, Lucas said as we watched the recording in real time. We immediately called the police and explained the situation. By the time the officers arrived, Chloe had already left, but the recordings were enough for them to take it seriously. They assured us that they would talk to her and give her a formal warning. That same night, Lucas received a call from his mother. "Did you really have to call the police?" she asked with a worried tone. "Chloe called me crying, saying that you're treating her like a criminal. How do you expect us to react?" "Mom," Lucas replied, frustrated. "She entered our property without permission, tried to take Charlie again, and keeps acting like it's normal. This can't continue like this." His mother sighed, clearly caught between her desire to protect Chloe and her understanding that her actions were wrong. "I just think Chloe needs help," she said softly. "That doesn't justify what she's doing." I replied, "She may need help, but she also needs consequences." I thought that warning would be enough to stop Chloe, but things only got worse. A few days later, while Lucas was at work and I went out to do some quick shopping, the most alarming incident to date occurred. When I returned home, everything seemed normal at first. I entered through the front door and called Charlie, but he didn't come running as usual. A feeling of panic began to grow in my chest. I checked the whole house, shouting his name, but he was nowhere. It was then that I saw that the sliding door to the patio was open again. I ran to the backyard, but there was no sign of Charlie. I began to search desperately through the neighborhood, shouting his name. The minutes passed and despair took hold of me. I called Lucas, who rushed out of work to join the search. Just as I was about to call the police again, my phone rang. It was a call from an unknown number. "Olivia?" asked the voice on the other end. It was Lucas' mother. "Chloe is here and she has Charlie." My heart stopped for a moment. "What do you mean? She has Charlie? What's going on?" "She showed up a few minutes ago saying she found him on the street," she explained. "But something doesn't add up. Olivia, I think you're right. Chloe is acting weird." Lucas and I wasted no time. We got in the car and drove straight to his mother's house. When we arrived, we found Chloe in the living room, sitting with Charlie on her lap, petting him as if nothing were out of place. "What are you doing, Chloe?" Lucas asked, his voice trembling with rage. "How did you get Charlie?" Chloe looked up, feigning surprise. "I found him wandering around the neighborhood. I was worried about him, so I brought him here." "And what's going on? You don't expect us to believe that, after everything you've done?" I snapped at her. She shrugged, as if she didn't understand why we were so upset. "Look, I'm just trying to help. You clearly aren't taking care of him as you should. Someone has to do it." That was the last straw. We called the police from his mother's house and explained what had happened. Chloe tried to argue that she was only doing the right thing, but the security recordings we had saved proved otherwise. The authorities took the matter more seriously this time. Chloe was arrested and informed that she would face charges for trespassing and theft of property. As the officers were taking her away, Chloe gave us one last defiant look. "This isn't over," she said with a cold smile. Lucas was devastated, not only by what Chloe had done, but also by the damage she was causing to his family. That night, we sat together in silence. trying to process everything. Charlie was safe with us again. But the fear that something worse could happen wouldn't leave us alone. After Chloe's arrest, the whole family was in shock. My mother-in-law, who had initially tried to justify her behavior, was now just as horrified as we were. Chloe spent one night in jail before being released on bail. And although it didn't surprise us, what did astonish us was her reaction after leaving. Instead of showing remorse, Chloe doubled down on her attacks towards us. She began posting messages on social media claiming that Lucas and I were abusive to Charlie and that she had done what she did to save him. In her posts, she portrayed us as negligent and selfish people, and even went so far as to imply that we had adopted Charlie just to show off without giving him the love he deserved. At first, we ignored her posts. But things got out of control when some of our friends and family members began to ask if there was any truth to what Chloe was saying. Although most of them knew how irrational she was, there were people who didn't know the whole story and began to doubt. Lucas was especially affected. Chloe had been his older sister and an important figure in his life for many years. And now she seemed determined to destroy his reputation. "I can't believe she's gone this far," he told me one night while we were checking the notifications on our phones, which wouldn't stop ringing with messages of support and confused questions from acquaintances. "We have to stop her," I replied. "This isn't just a family problem now. She's trying to ruin our lives publicly." The situation reached its most critical point when Chloe decided to take her crusade a step further. She filed a lawsuit against us, alleging that Charlie was being mistreated and should be removed from our home. When we received the legal documents, we didn't know whether to laugh at the absurdity of the situation or cry from the stress of having to deal with something so surreal. "Is this real?" Lucas asked while holding the papers in his hands. "How can someone make something like this up?" We consulted with a lawyer who assured us that Chloe had no legal basis for her claim, especially considering that we had documented everything that had happened up to that point, including the recordings from our security cameras and the police reports. Even so, the legal process took time and resources, which only added more tension to our lives. During the weeks that followed, Chloe continued to spread lies about us on her social networks. She even began to use the hashtags #JusticeForCharlie and #LiberateCharlie as if our dog were being kept in inhumane conditions. Every time I saw one of her posts, I felt a mix of rage and sadness. Not only was she attacking us, but she was also exploiting the situation to gain attention and sympathy from strangers on the internet. While all this was going on, Chloe continued to attend family gatherings, even though most family members had asked her to reflect on her behavior. During a dinner at my in-laws' house, the atmosphere was particularly tense. Chloe avoided looking directly at us, but she didn't miss the opportunity to make sarcastic comments directed at us. "It's curious how some people think that adopting a dog is the same as knowing how to take care of it," she said loudly while playing with her fork. Lucas, who had been trying to stay calm all night, finally exploded. "You want to talk about taking good care of a dog? Chloe, maybe we should discuss how you illegally entered our house and tried to steal him." The room fell silent. Chloe shrugged and replied with disdain. "I just did what any responsible person would have done. You should be grateful." "Grateful?" I replied, unable to contain myself. "You accused us of something we didn't do. You ruined family trust. And you even dragged us into a legal process. This is not being responsible. Chloe, this is being completely out of line." My mother-in-law intervened this time, completely taking our side. "Chloe, that's enough," she said in a firm voice that she rarely used. "This has gone too far. You're destroying your family. And you're not seeing the damage you're causing. You need help." Chloe huffed and got up from the table, declaring that she didn't have to stay to be attacked. As the case progressed, our community began to realize the truth. Thanks to our evidence, including the security videos and police reports, we were able to demonstrate that Chloe had no basis for her accusations. The judge dismissed her lawsuit and ordered her to pay the legal costs we had incurred during the process. Instead of accepting defeat, Chloe became even more defiant. She began to appear in public places where she knew we would be, trying to confront us in front of other people. Once, she even tried to approach Charlie in a park where we regularly walked him. That was the last straw for us. We decided to request a restraining order against Chloe, which resulted in another confrontation with the family. Although most of them supported us, There were some who felt we were being too harsh with her. She's your sister. Lucas, one of his cousins, said during a phone conversation. Do you really want to take this so far? I have no other choice. Lucas replied. It's not just about us. Chloe is out of control, and we need to protect ourselves. Despite everything, we moved forward. Charlie was safe at home with us, and we were determined not to let Chloe ruin our lives. Although we still felt the weight of everything that had happened, we were beginning to see a glimmer of hope. However, Chloe wasn't finished, and we were about to face her most unexpected and alarming act. A few months after the judge dismissed Chloe's lawsuit and we obtained the restraining order, Chloe had distanced herself from most of the family, and although she occasionally tried to contact us through third parties, we were convinced that she had given up. But we were wrong. One night, while Lucas and I were at home watching a movie, we received a call from a neighbor. Hello. Sorry to bother you, but I think someone is lurking around your house. I saw a van parked nearby, and there's a person walking around in your backyard. My heart stopped. I thanked the neighbor and hung up quickly, checking the security cameras from my phone. What I saw left me speechless. It was Chloe. She was in the backyard dressed in black, as if trying not to be seen, and was carrying a dog transport cage. It's Chloe, I yelled, showing the image to Lucas. Without losing a second, we called the police and informed them that someone was trying to enter our property. While we waited for their arrival, we watched Chloe through the cameras. She was looking for a way to get in, checking the doors and windows of the backyard. Charlie, who was inside the house, began to bark desperately, clearly disturbed by her presence. Lucas wanted to go out and confront her, but I stopped him. We don't know what she's thinking or what she might do, I said. It's better if we wait for the police. When the officers arrived, Chloe was still in the backyard, trying to open the sliding door. She seemed completely unaware of the fact that there were cameras recording her every move. When the officers confronted her, Chloe became defensive. I'm not doing anything wrong, she insisted while trying to justify herself. I just came for my dog. Charlie should be with me. The officers were not convinced. Chloe was arrested on the spot for violating the restraining order and for attempted trespassing. While they were taking her handcuffed to the patrol car, Chloe yelled things like, I haven't done anything wrong. I'm just trying to save him from you. It was a surreal moment. Lucas and I were watching from the window, trying to process what had just happened. Although we were relieved that Chloe would finally face the consequences of her actions, we were also deeply saddened. This was his sister, someone he had loved and respected, and now she was being taken away in a police car. The following weeks were a whirlwind. Chloe was formally charged with violating the restraining order, trespassing, and harassment. The situation caused a great division in the family. Although most of the members supported our decision to act legally, some, including her mother and a couple of cousins, insisted that we were being too harsh with Chloe. It's obvious she needs help, her mother said during a phone call with Lucas. It's clear she's not mentally well. Do you really want to ruin her life by taking her to court? Lucas replied calmly, but firmly. Mom, this isn't just a mental health problem. Chloe has crossed too many lines. She has put our safety and Charlie's safety at risk. We can't continue to ignore this. In court, Chloe tried to defend herself, claiming that her actions were an act of love for Charlie. She said she had been acting under emotional stress due to the loss of Bella and that she only wanted the best for our dog. However, the evidence was overwhelming against her. The recordings from our cameras, the police reports, and the witness statements painted a clear picture of a dangerous obsession. The judge ruled that Chloe would receive a 6-month suspended sentence. In addition to being required to attend therapy, she was also ordered to stay a minimum distance of 100 meters away from us and our property. When the sentence was announced, Chloe remained silent, but her gaze said it all. She was not remorseful. Since then, we have tried to move forward with our lives. Charlie is still the center of our home, and we have further strengthened the security measures in our house. Although the experience left us scarred, it also taught us to value even more the peace and security of our home. Chloe, on the other hand, has been virtually excluded from the family. Most members are not willing to tolerate her behavior, and although her mother still tries to maintain contact, Even she admits that Chloe needs to make significant changes in her life before she can rebuild the relationships she destroyed. Sometimes Lucas feels guilty about the distance with his sister. But he knows that we did what was necessary to protect ourselves. It's sad, he told me one night while petting Charlie. But sometimes, even with family, there are limits that cannot be crossed. I agree. What Chloe did was more than a simple mistake. It was a series of selfish and dangerous decisions that put at risk not only our safety, but also our trust in those around us.